Hey guys, welcome to my June favourites. I have sat myself down with a cup of tea and have made a mess around me, which you can't see, so that I can bring you the June favourites, because I know that they were missed by people, which actually really surprised me, I'll be honest. I thought of all the videos that they would be the ones that maybe people would get sick of, especially where sometimes for me, where I have not always got loads of new decks coming in, they're more repetitive, I guess. But I'm super psyched to sit down and go through them with you guys. You can see that my cup of tea is nearly finished, but I really wanted to show you my cat mug that my partner got me a while ago now, but you guys haven't seen it, I don't think. And you know that I love cats, right? This isn't new information to you, unless this is the first time you're ever hearing me, which in that case, welcome to the channel. I love cats. And I'm drinking my ever treasured yogi tea, which is the immune support. I have quite a nice selection of things to show you, from decks to books, crystals, and a smattering of other things. And I want to just jump straight in this time around, and we'll catch up as we go along. Starting with something quite different this time around, but I feel that it's a good way to catch up with you guys and tell you where I'm at. These are two cards that I pulled very early in the month, and I left them out as a focus point, not on my altar because that's kind of where I set intention, but just next to my desk where I work. And you can see the one on the left is from the Faeries Oracle by Brian Froud, and the one on the right is a tarot card from the Deviant Moon Tarot. Now, I'm not going to go into depth. I'm sure you can tell from the images, they really speak for themselves. They're quite visceral, I feel. And most of you who have been on this journey with me so far will know that I've often been pretty open, especially on my Instagram, but also on my YouTube, about my journey outside of tarot. Things like my chronic health conditions, more recent diagnosis, my infertility journey. And it's really just come to a point where I don't want my catch-ups and my favourite videos to be repetitive, because these are processes that they take a lot longer than a couple of months. That's the reality. That's what it's like to be processing loss and change and just so much emotional variations in one go. And also, whilst I like sharing a part of myself on social media, and especially I feel it helps people to connect with me as a reader, and I've built friendships and all those lovely things, I think that it's good to honour your process and all of the changes. And right now I've come to a point where the processing is becoming a lot deeper, a lot more long term, and it feels like it needs to be private right now. There's a lot being carried anyway, and it's not that I just want to put on a happy front at all, but it's putting yourself out there in some of these very private life journeys actually invites a lot of attention and advice giving and opinions. And right now I've come to the point where, as you can see from my cards, I don't really feel in a space to invite more of that in. And so for me right now, these are the cards. This is, without going into further detail, this is some of my process in recent months. These kind of cards do seem to keep coming up naturally, and that's really where I am. So whilst I might not be sharing some of the stuff that I'm going through at the moment, I kind of wanted to acknowledge that with you guys and still share my cards of the month and just honour where I am whilst still being able to share a part of it with you, even if it's not everything. Moving into decks now, I know that decks is kind of the favourite part for everyone, and of course the death card would be at the top of the deck. This is the beautiful Cosmic Mother Tarot, and you'll see that recently I put up a review of this deck. So if you want to know the ins and outs of how I feel about it, then go and check out the review. This deck is just a treat to work with. For me, I have quite an emotional connection to it because of the way that I find I read with it. It's really as simple as that, and it feels very different to the rest of the decks I own. I allow myself to go into a very playful, emotional level with this deck because of the way that I resonate with the artwork in particular, and I guess that's why I have that personal connection to it. One of the things that makes this deck even more special for me, I guess, is the fact that it's led me to Alice. It was one of the things that meant I found her on Instagram and has become a friendship and someone who I really love to support. So the fact that I genuinely adore her deck, have found it really powerful to work with, to tap into some of those, I guess, deeper emotional aspects that can be suppressed when you're living day-to-day life and being an adult and doing all the adulting stuff. And there's something about this deck that I find I can tap out of that and into some of the stuff that I need to in a kind of healing and therapeutic way. It has been a really cathartic experience, and it's fun too. This deck makes me smile as much as I'm tapping into some of the real deep core emotional difficulties, which I do feel I've been dealing with a lot of healing work recently in my personal tarot readings. I just find it fun. It's gentle. And as I say, often I feel that that's more to do with how I'm reading the deck as well as how I resonate with the artwork. I truly believe that we each have different experiences with decks, but this has been a great one for me, and I haven't worked with too many decks this month for personal readings, so this has pretty much been one of the staples. Next up we have got the epic Tarot Fauna. Yeah, baby. I was gifted this deck by the creator Deviant, and I have fallen in love. I already fell in love with it whilst all of the artwork was being created and the whole progression of it. The fox medicine in it. I love working with animals. I do so very, very often, and so this deck feels very natural. The flow in it feels just like it was made for me. I really love it. I have actually started something called Fauna Fridays over on Instagram, and Fauna Fridays is a pick a card reading where you can pick from one of 3 cards, and then you'll get a weekly message from this beautiful deck. And sometimes it's more focused on the tarot card, sometimes it's more focused on the animal medicine. At times it could be an amalgamation of both, but really this deck just speaks to me so much that I wanted to do something special with it. And so far, Fauna Fridays has been pretty well received, actually. I really look forward to Fridays and pulling people's cards and sitting there and writing the messages. Also, I feel it's quite nice because it gives people a little insight into how I read. Obviously, the readings are a hell of a lot shorter than my actual ones. The artwork on this deck is Deviant, and I've said this about the artist lots and lots and lots, and her name is Brittany, that whilst I love a variation of art, I'd quite happily see her artwork on loads more decks. I really, really, really love this artwork. The colours speak to me. The fact that it's watercolour but it's not washed out. The emotion that she gives the animals through their eyes and their body language. It just really feels like an animal deck done well. And again, if you want to see my first impressions, then you can head over to some of my other videos and it should be hidden in there. But this is a favourite for sure. I have been obsessed. Now we're on to Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Yeah! I finally have this deck. I am so late to the party, I know, but I don't even care. I have to gush about it. Amber from Amber in Wonderland gifted me this deck with some beautiful crystals and a book which I'll be showing you in a minute, because she knew that I had wanted this deck for such a long time, and initially I had tried to do a trade with her for it, but I didn't have anything she wanted, and then this surprise package turned up in the mail, you guys. So very, very fortunate to have been gifted 2 decks and just feeling superbly blessed. This deck is really hard to explain the experience, and I've heard so many good things about it, and you know when you get something and all of a sudden it clicks. I was like, okay, that's what it is. It's the people deck that I needed. The deep colours, the fae energy, the faces and the body language, similar to the Tarot Fauna but with people, which I find I'm much pickier with. I am really fussy about people decks, and I have to say that this might be my favourite people deck ever already. There's been some readings with this deck that just felt so personal that I simply kept them for myself and enjoyed them, which is quite unlike me, but there is something about this deck that just opens up a narrative. And I guess because I work with people for a living, and there's so much in what people don't say as well as what they do say. That's really something that's big in my line of work, you know, listen to what people don't say, and, you know, people's body language and how they present themselves, how they engage with other people. And I feel there's this real raw presence and all of those things intertwined in this particular deck. It feels like it plays with the elements really well, which is something, again, that I enjoy. I have noticed that, if anything, I work with the elements the most in tarot, as well as my intuition and what I already know of the cards. So really, I just want to say thank you to Amber, because this has been a treat and I do feel really blessed. Moving on to Oracle, because the last tarot deck that I want to show you, actually I want to show you it with a book. This is Lisa McLaughlin's Life Design cards, and this is a deck that I hadn't found myself using much, purely because I have Lisa's plant and tree decks as well. And then when I got the Tarot Fauna, I should probably get some cards out to show you guys. There was something about these 2 decks that just clicked together. It is a very, very unique oracle in the way that it works. It's very kind of productive, journal, prompt based almost. And it has a really interesting mix of astrological and elemental things along with everyday tasks and experiences. And as you can see, it's quite colourful as well. There's all these beautiful layers. And whilst it does come with a book that's got some really interesting prompts and guidance with it, I also think that there's a lot to be taken from the messages. just on the cards. They've got these beautiful backs that are all different colours as well, dependent on what section the card falls into, because they are structured somewhat. It doesn't affect your use of the oracle at all if you don't want it to, though. And more than anything, I just realised that these, oh, they just look so good together. It just feels like the colour palettes and the tones of the deck were made for each other. And I'm really thankful for Tarot Fauna for that, because this is a fab deck and it's not often that it takes me a while to connect to something. And I love Lisa and her work. So I knew that there was probably something that I was missing with this deck, and it just took a while. But as I say, that's really quite out of the ordinary for me. I'm wondering if I can find my absolute favourite card, but I've probably skipped past it somewhere. There is a photography card with a, oh, there it is, with a little fox on it, you guys. Look. Just, yes, delicious. And it's finally got me working with this deck. I love the prompt-based element to it anyway, because I'm a very productive reader in terms of I want something that's going to be useful to me when I read for myself, and that's how I read for others, hopefully. Something that's food for thought or has an emotional shift that you need, a realisation, a different perspective, something to go and do otherwise that's going to put steps in motions towards a goal, to psychological exploration. I just want meaty when I do my readings, and this deck has a fab way of doing that and still giving you that oracle element, which I feel is quite clever with oracle decks. There's such a variety of oracle decks that really, because there's no rules, you can go any which way, but I love the way that this one's structured, and it's meant enjoying it a hell of a lot more. And we're into books and the final tarot deck. This is the book that Amber gifted me, along with Hidden Realms and the beautiful little crystals, which I have used some of them on various little crystal layouts and mixed some of them into my crystal bowl, so I haven't got them to show you guys. But I do have an unboxing of the package she sent me on my IGTV, which is the TV for Instagram. And if you go onto my Instagram, which is simply cosmic.creeper, then you will find it. It's just underneath the bio in like a little circle on the left. This Tarot on Earth is by Tom Benjamin. I love Tom. I enjoy watching and listening to him. He has a real calming presence about him, but also I find him really funny, and I wanted to focus more on the pips, numerology and things like that in my readings and bring more of it into the practice. And I had been doing it anyway, but I knew that this book would be a fabulous way of bringing it all together. And sometimes actually, more often than not, I relish from the structure of having something physical to work through. I could sit on the computer and read all the blogs and find all the stuff, but I find that videos or physical books are really the best way to help myself to sit down and commit and learn. I am quite a hands-on person as well. And the thing that I've loved about this book is Tom's immediate encouragement to write in the book, use the book, make it look like it's studied. And it reminds me of studying, because that is the only time I've ever defaced a book, is when I was back in college or doing uni courses and things like that. And it's quite a big deal for me to write in a book. Most of the first part, there isn't enough room in the book, and so you make yourself little sheets, which I've got here. Here they are with my workings of the numbers. And then as you move on into the book, you can start writing in it. And I did commit to my first pen to paper. It's got to be in here somewhere. Yeah, look, barely, but I haven't got very far in the book. Already I love it. I don't know, can you recommend a book before you're only a little bit of the way through? I don't know. All I can say is that I watched Tom's really long live about, he did a live talking about numerology and went through all of the numbers, and obviously people were live, so they were discussing with him, and he kind of mused at the end that maybe no one would watch it back. And I'm sure I wasn't the only person because there was a lot of comments, but it was really, really helpful. And I had made all these notes and put it all into my workings. And so when this book came out and I realised it was something I was enjoying, it went straight on my wish list. I'm ever thankful again to Amber for gifting it to me, and it's definitely something that you'll see in my favourites again, but I'll try and give you a bit more information once I move further through it. One of the things that Tom had said was, you know, if you can, don't rush it. And because I do tend to go 100 miles an hour, I'm using it as a reminder to slow back down. Now, that is where the White Sage Tarot comes back in, which was going to be one of my favourite decks anyway, because again, it's just very, very unique. I don't feel like there's currently... I guess there's decks that could be considered similar in that there's other pippish decks with animals. Obviously, you've got the Wild Unknown, you've got the Anima Monday, but this has a different tone and a different voice. And the pips, there's no animals, people, or anything like that in them. There are chakra ribbons, and you can either add that into your use of the deck or not. But one of the things that I've enjoyed about this is that whilst it is a pip deck, in my opinion, it's pippish enough to be referred to as a pip deck, it graces that in between where there's still suggestion to the meaning of the card. I know that it's not a hard and fast pip deck, you know, it's not a Marseille for sure, and I don't know what people's feelings are about me using this deck with Tarot on Earth, but this is the closest thing that I've got, and for me it's working really beautifully. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this deck. I know that Teresa was saying to me she hadn't had it in her mind to make a pip deck. She simply wanted to make a more simplified version of the tarot, in that the message was there but it wasn't kind of hidden amongst so much symbology that it might be overwhelming or too much for someone. Now that's my words from what I remember of our discussion, so they're not her exact words, but you kind of get the gist. And yeah, I've been enjoying bringing these two together in the process of working better on my numerology. You know, there was already knowledge there. I'm not going to say I didn't have an existing knowledge of this, but I like to round things off and add anything that I can to it. I am a bit of a sucker for studying, to be honest. I have been studying for years. The whole way through my career, I still continue my studies and add different aspects to it. So I would imagine that my tarot relationship will continue to be the same way as well. And finally, I just want to show you this little scarab beetle, because there is Egyptian mythology and touches added to the White Sage Tarot, and this little scarab beetle was made for me out of clay by my brother when he was quite a bit younger, and it's my companion for the deck. It's super cute. It's probably hard to see the detailing, but it is there. and it's just something that is quite sweet, so it's definitely one of my favourites. I nearly forgot to show you this. For all of the parts in Tom's book where there's not necessarily enough space to write in the book, I wanted to assign a notepad just for Tom's book to ensure that it didn't get basically mixed up with my daily tarot readings and other things. This is a beautiful, beautiful fox. Honestly, this needs to be printed and put on the wall or something. I work with fox medicine a lot. I have since I was young, and it's just beautiful. That's really it. That's what I wanted to show it to you, to just gush at it really quickly. Next up, we have the first book in the Raven cycle called The Raven's Boys. Now, heads up everyone, and I do mean this, I haven't read any of the other books yet. I've just started the second one. Please, please don't discuss the content of the books below or give me any spoilers, because it's taken a lot to get back into reading, and I've read some poetry on and off throughout, and I've studied bits and pieces of books. I've not got into anything other than the poetry really that I wanted to absorb so quickly that I didn't want to put the book down. This was gifted to me as well, actually not the month just gone. I think the month before. The whole 4 books were gifted to me by my lovely friend Wendy, and she just had an inkling that I was going to love them, and she was so right. And the fact that they have allowed me to get into books again, like I devoured this book in a week, which is still quite a long time for me, but I hadn't devoured a book like that in ages. I'm also reading The Women Who Run with the Wolves, but I'm reading that in bits and pieces and not necessarily in order. But this devoured. It is freaking awesome. For those of you who don't know, Maggie created the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, and from what I understand, that tarot is loosely based off of these 4 books. If you haven't read them, I'm going to be a really annoying person now that compares books, but it's because I'm not a book reviewer. I am not eloquent and versed in the way of describing books. It's really not my strong point. The best 2 things that I can compare it to is it was like Harry Potter meets Donnie Darko. I don't know any other way to explain it. There's magic, but there's depth and there's psychological weirdness, and it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. It's worth reading. I mentioned Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it's in a little pile just out of my reach. You guys know what the book looks like by now. If you don't, it's on my Instagram. It's fantastic. I love it. There's so many powerful stories and emotionally evocative, just, little tales and myths, and it's really, really fascinating. I highly recommend it. I am going to be that person who joins in with the rest and gushes about the book. And finally, my last book is this little Pocket Nature, which I have 3 of them so far. And I just figured, why show you all 3? They're all on different things. One's more wildlife in terms of like mammals and things, and the other one is butterflies and moths, and this is insects and spiders, and it's based on British and European. Now, they're not as in-depth as I would like. I'm quite a nerd, and I really, really love learning about all of the bugs to the deer and anything in between. Honestly, you guys, I'm sorry if you're not into bugs and stuff. It probably wasn't the best book of the 3 to show people, but I literally take these books out with me, and I'm taking photos of things all the time. I think photography is probably one of my biggest hobbies, and it generally is animals and nature. And this book has just bring me a lot of joy in terms of being able to ID things. It's also something that I can share with my dad, because He's always been that way inclined as well. We both love photography, and it's nice to have specific things for us to bond over. Moving into the final Nikki Nacky bits, here is my gorgeous JD Marla. And I've been working a lot with this in meditation mainly, just trying to slow down, centre myself. I've had a lot of headaches throughout the month of June, and I do just slowly move it and meditate. It's just the movement and the breathing is enough for me. But it's something that I found myself drawn to even more than usual, because it is my only Marla, and so it does get a lot of use. But there was just something about this month in particular that really led me to picking it up, and even if I'm not wearing it, just kind of wandering around with it in my hands. We have my very popular, beautiful Labradorite palm stone. And as always, I'm just obsessed with this. Walking around with it, clenched in my hands, meditating with it, and enjoying its various beautiful flashes. This gorgeous piece of selenite was gifted to me by Deviant, along with my tarot Fauna and a couple of other little bits, and this has been awesome. I had never had a bit this big, and so I wasn't really that drawn to mine very often, but there's something about this piece in particular that it's either sitting on my tarot Fauna deck or with another deck, or I'm wandering around with it. My cat's super obsessed with it. She tried to eat it the other day as well, so it's definitely popular in this household. And finally, crystal wise, are my 3 leopard spotted jasper, which this is kind of what I do with them. I don't tend to pick one up, I tend to pick all 3 up. I have probably said this before, but there's something about buying crystals from Glastonbury that always makes them feel like they've got an extra bit of magic or something with them. And we actually bought them because they're spotty like our Bengal cat, and we're simple. That made us laugh and we thought they were pretty, but they have been treasured ever since. I've been using my Aphrodite oil quite a bit. It's a very citrusy scent, and I often find myself putting it on before I do a live, record a video, or before I do a reading for someone else. No conscious reason, I just sit down and it catches my eye and that's what I do with it. But it's just a really nice fragrant smell, and so that's something I've been enjoying. I've been continuing to mist my face and my pillow of a night time with this lavender and coconut oil spritz, just to kind of chill out and add that little bit of ambience to the room before I try and go to sleep, because as many of you know, insomnia is a big thing for me, and whilst I've never found a direct cure for fighting it off for long periods of time, I take CBD oil, which hasn't so much helped with my chronic pains, in honesty, after a long time of using it, but it's helped with my sleep, which is something that I'm eternally grateful for still. And this lavender is just a good way to, I guess, for me to psychologically recognise that it's time to chill, it's time for sleep. It's almost like a signpost that it's bedtime now, and that's just something silly that I do. I've been completely obsessed with burning my Palo Santo, which is a big turnaround for me because last year I was Mrs. White Sage. I've barely burnt any incense, diffused any oils. It has just all been about Palo Santo, and this was quite a short bit anyway, but it's getting to that sweet little stubby size, and it does smell amazing, so I'm definitely gonna have to get some more at some point. And last but not least If you follow me on Instagram, then you'll know that I've been regularly going down to our local pond and kind of, just for fun, documenting the growth of the ducklings and the goslings and any other baby birds or anything else that's been born. It's been really interesting watching them grow. Particularly the goslings are really, really quite, I don't know, brave with us in particular. They are picky about the people who they come to, but we've been very blessed. I've got some amazing close-up pictures and videos of the goslings, the ducklings and their parents. And whilst I've been going, I couldn't help but collect myself some of the beautiful goose feathers that had been laying around. And I've got everything from this, I guess it's not small in terms of feather, it is for a goose, and then this beautiful, like huge, it would make the best quill. And I love feathers anyway, but there was something about gathering some of the feathers from the geese that I knew, that I visited, that I feed, you know, there was something really cool about that. So I brought them home, put up something on Instagram saying, how do I make these sanitary, please? And someone told me with these ones, because they're water birds, simply wash them and clean them that way, and then pop them in the freezer just to make sure that anything that might be left dies off. And I forgot about them, so they were in the freezer for like a week and a half, which definitely, if anything was on them, it would have died, any mites. And then bought them out, and now they are used for various things. Well, I say various things, mainly they're just used for being pretty, or if I'm working with goose medicine, in terms of if I'm focusing on it and a part of the message. And then finally in any of my sort of cleansing smoke rituals, then I've been using the feathers as well, because believe me, this one really picks up some wind, and it's quite fantastic watching the smoke sort of spiral and disperse. I just want to thank you for continuing to watch my videos, for continuing to support me, for anyone who gets readings from me, for anyone who likes and comments my videos. It's all part of feeling like there's community, and I'm always going on about community over competition. It's something I'm very passionate about. I try and shout out people as much as possible, because whilst I'm not in a position to financially support a lot of people, I still think that sharing stuff and just showing your thanks and your gratitude is a nice way to support people, because you'd be surprised at how much that adds to someone's day, or the fact that they've taken time to put content out there and that someone's enjoyed it and that they wanted to share that with them. So that's it really. I'm thankful for your support in any which way that it comes. If you watch the video all the way to the end, then go you. I like long videos myself, but you know, everyone to their own. You can't please everyone. But other than that, I hope you guys have a really, really beautiful July. I am going to go outside and enjoy some sunshine, because I tell you what, sunshine is not that regular over here in the UK, and at the moment it has been beautiful. And if anything else had to be added to my favourites, then it's that. I am a sun baby. I love being warm. I love feeling the sunshine on my face. It helps a lot of my chronic aches and pains. It doesn't get rid of them, but the cold definitely aggravates a lot of it. So that's something that's really great. I am loving it, and I am off to enjoy some. Have a lovely day, you guys. Bye.